It's July 19, Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation, and my name is Svetlana Cheparenko. This night, Ukraine experienced another strike by the aggressor. We're following this situation, and now we will find out what is the situation specifically in Luhansk region. Joining us online is Artem, Lysohor, the military governor of Luhansk region. Good morning, Mr. Artem. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Artem, Luhansk region is being constantly shelled by the enemy. So what was the last day, the last night? Yeah, you've mentioned it properly. The deoccupied part of Luhansk region, which is under Ukrainian control, is being very intensely shelled by the cannon and rocket artillery within the last week, as you've heard from the spokespeople and from government officials. The enemy has accumulated sufficient forces, sufficient personnel and material to attempt another attack, but our forces inflict serious strikes at the enemy, repelling their attacks. The enemy tries to advance, however our guys continue striking them very precisely and quite successfully. So where is the situation the most complicated now? You know, the enemy currently all along the front line in the region of Pozemivka, Nevska, and in other villages tries to attack us, but our forces, as I mentioned, repel the attack properly. There are fights in Kremene and Bilohorivka. The enemy tries to focus their efforts in some directions, trying to develop the offensive and achieve some results, but I'm sure our guys will be able to repel all their attacks. So what is this humanitarian situation in the region? How do the people that refuse to evacuate live? Are the basic needs covered? What do we know about the well, gas, water, electric power? Everything is without changes. Nobody is going to do anything there because, as we were reported, or as it was reported by the government of so-called DPR, they resumed water supply at some spots, but we don't know where. The citizens, they said that information is not true, and in the same way that not true is the situation about different social facilities. For example, only 2 pharmacies were opened in Severodonetsk, but they don't have even the basic supply of the medicines. Well, you can order them to be shipped from Luhansk, but the price is 100% higher in case you need those medicines real bad. As to the ambulances, in case of injury or any wound, the people who are living along the front line, maybe 40-50 kilometers in the depth, they cannot get any medical aid. All the medical facilities are either destroyed or otherwise re-equipped for military purpose. So our citizens are totally deprived of any opportunity to get any medical aid. The medical facilities are filled with the doctors coming from Russia or from other occupied territories. I mean, the territories occupied since 2014. So what are the conditions in the territories under Ukrainian control? How is the preparation to winter? And what is the situation with the basic needs of the population on the Ukrainian controlled side? Well, you know, all those villages and towns, they are under constant shelling. Fortunately, thanks God, there are no casualties, no injuries, but we try to take all the measures. I mean, the administration, in coordination with the armed forces and law enforcement agencies, take all necessary efforts to cover all basic needs of the people who refuse to evacuate from the territories under Ukrainian control that are under constant shell, and we are in touch with them. We deliver water, bread, basic medicines there. There are our representatives there. The logistics is a little bit complicated, but we continue doing it no matter what. The enemy strikes the logistics chains, tries to inflict strikes on positions of our armed forces. They strike our villages, our settlements. People keep hiding and they remain intact. Well, apart from constant attacks, what is also known about the crimes committed by the occupiers in Luhansk region? Well, you know, we emphasized it a lot of times that the so-called migration workers, that they keep coming to the territories along the front lines and they pillage everything there. There was like a 5-story building. The occupiers administration says that they try to rebuild those houses, but what we've seen yesterday, the building is still there without any repairs. There are no even radiators, even the windows are being stolen from the building. Well, they're murdering everything and there is nowhere to for the help to come from. You understand that it's impossible to fight this marauder under the conditions of this constant shelling and intense fighting. They tell us about their MGB, but they are even the bigger robbers than those that pillage those buildings, I'm telling you. So what is the situation with forced passportization? Well, the situation is the same. You remember they adopted that law that starting from the 1st July 2024, the people without passports were under threat of deportation, and now they say that from the 1st of December, people who don't have Russian passports, they won't be able to get any social services, and they say everything should be done before the 1st of December. For example, in Oblast factory, the workers were tasked to process their banking cards and the paperwork until the end of July, otherwise they would be fired. So the people are constantly oppressed. Without Russian paperwork, without Russian passports, they cannot do anything, no social payments, even they cannot change their number plates on their cars. As to the children, you understand that no single child, no single graduate was able to get a diploma without a passport. And the same situation is with the parents. In some schools we have information that if people don't get passports, their children would not be able to pass the exams. Well, do we have any information about the figure? What is the number of the people who received passports? I mean, in Luhansk region? Well, we don't believe any figures of theirs because they reported about 1,700,000 people being passportized back then, including 700,000 in the territories which were occupied starting from 24th February 2022. Well, I see, dear colleagues, do we have any questions on the floor? Good morning, Irina Mamchar, Ukrinform. I have 3 questions. The first one is about Lysychansk and continuation of the forced passportization topic. You were writing in your Telegram channel that in Lysychansk the occupiers are preparing for so-called elections. They are given promises to refuse the water and power supply. Do you see this preparation as a stage that we see in other occupied territories? The phase that would intensify the forced passportization, what should the people in occupied Lysychansk do? Thank you. Thank you for your question. The situation here is really more related not to passportization, but rather the fact that they demonstrate in the media what we debunk about any works that they undertake both in Lysychansk and in other places. We understand it clearly. They want to hold elections, so they will try to encourage the people using any means and measures. Well, you see, those who were adherents of the Russian world, so to say, they've already seen the Russian world coming to them. We understand it and we see it. Even the people who were keen zealots and who were about to visit their to meet their liberators with the flowers in their hands, they see what's going on. They write it in their social media. And now people don't have any opportunity, those who don't have any opportunity to leave, either due to financial reasons, they are being kept there only for the sake of the elections. They press on the people to receive the passports one way or another. Both using the mobile teams and by the teams in the checkpoints. So they need to demonstrate some result to their government in Russia, but it's not the result that they can show during the elections. If there is a passport, there is the serial number of the passport, so it cannot happen just like in LPR that you can get some paper and make do with it. They will have to passportize people, and we only hope for our successful counteroffensive to liberate people from that burden, from that yoke. Well, another question is about the humanitarian area. Can the residents of Luhansk region get any compensation for their destroyed property? We know that the people whose property was destroyed in other regions, including Luhansk region, in the territories under Ukrainian control, we know what is the procedure for them. There is a committee, they inspect the building, people submit applications, and gradually they can get compensation, and they don't have to think how to repair their property in case it's subject to repair, or to get a new property, or to build a new house. So what is the legal mechanism for the people in the occupied territories of Luhansk region in case their properties are destroyed in part or in full? Is there any such mechanism in place? Does it exist in principle? Do people submit any applications? So is there any mechanism existing for those people who lost their homes? Do they submit any application? And if so, what is the number of such applications? Thank you. Well, look, regarding the support and regarding the compensation for the property, there is the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers which contemplates the procedure. We deployed a number of administrative support centers, 18 of them in our region, so that people can get advice there and they can get aid directly there in submitting of their applications, in registration, and putting together the package of documents. Well, you mentioned it properly about the committee, but currently the territory is occupied. So now we, in coordination with the government, develop the procedure, develop the mechanism for that committee to go on spot and to make an inspection of the property. Now there is a procedure developed for remote inspection using the satellite images or something like that. So we received already 30,000 applications for compensation against destroyed property. The work is underway. We processed those applications. We've already processed 21,000 of them. We got them re-registered in the database, and it equalized that problem that existed, that people were submitting the incomplete package of paperwork, and the administrations could refuse that application in case the paperwork package is incomplete. So this is why we deployed that administrative support center network, in the centers network, the humanitarian hubs as we call them, so people now understand that their applications are submitted, and after the occupation, with the help of that mechanism that is being developed, they will be able to clearly understand when they are entitled to get that compensation. So just to double check, 30,000 applications, 21,000 of which are processed. Do they include only territories under Ukrainian control, or are they occupied territories? Yes, it's the temporarily occupied territories, and the people were submitting their applications here in the territories under Ukrainian control. Well, obviously, talking about the occupied territories, the people will get everything that they will get compensated for everything that was destroyed. Now the people only can now submit that application through DIA, but again, there is no mobile communication in the occupied territories. You have the people, they have representatives in the territories under Ukrainian control. And again, how can you even draw up a power of attorney if people are physically there? So we honestly did not divide people who live in the occupied, temporarily occupied and non-occupied territories, because they are all our Ukrainian citizens. Thank you very much. The last question is about the international support. Can you please tell us how do the international partners support Luhansk region? I know that there was a memorandum with the region of Lublin, signed between Lublin region and Luhansk region. So who supports them, and what is the international support still needed? Well, talking about the international support, we work on it, a lot. We work with the embassies of other countries. You know, there are sister cities, just like it was before. It was sister cities or sister towns. So we continue developing this access. We work with the international donors, we work with foreign companies, and shortly, within a couple of months, we will have the representatives of Luhansk communities taking part in a big international event on the recovery of Ukraine, which is called Rebuild Ukraine, and our 5 communities will be represented there with their recovery projects. And talking about Lublin, I want to thank them. I want to thank the region of Warsaw for signing this memorandum for resumption of this connection. They have already provided both humanitarian aid and supported us with a medical vehicle which can be used there during the occupation. It's very useful for the communities, so we're covered on that part, so that right upon the occupation we could plan the deployment of the headquarters and the control of military administration. So these are the measures being taken now with the support of international organizations and international partners. You see, we meet almost every day. We have agreements, signed memorandums, there are signed grants. Well, some of them are already signed, some are being prepared. We have consultations with the European partners on humanitarian aid for construction of temporary dwelling for those who lost their homes. And we're also talking with them about the rebuilding of the territories that are currently occupied right upon their deoccupation. We understand the problems with the dense mining and other problems, but we will need to recover the areas quite quickly, and we have to prepare all the recovery projects, all those grains, because we will have no time for preparation after that. And right after the demining, right after the screening, we will have to reestablish water and power supply there, and those are the projects that we work on with international partners on the government level and on other support projects. Thank you very much, Mr. Artem, for telling us about the situation in Luhansk region. Joining us was Artem Lysohor, the military governor of Luhansk region. And just in 10 minutes, we will talk about the fire and mine safety of Ukraine with the representatives of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Stay tuned.